Hello, I'm Leah from Patchwork Picnic, and this is the second part of the Hexie flower box tutorial. In the first part we made the box, and in this part we're going to go ahead and make the lid. So let's get going. So we cut and wrap our shapes just like we did with the rest of the box. I'm using glue again for the main pieces. Again, I'm using scrap just to stop getting any indents. Don't forget to make sure that all your tails face the same way so that they make a nice little neat rosette on the back. So now these are all dried, we're going to sew them together, and we're going to do them in exactly the same order as we did on the actual main body of the box. So we have the big one in the middle and then the smaller one either side to make our 6 panels. join them so they make a loop. So to do that, we join it like that, and then we'll just sew down here. It's much easier than joining the long ones because they're so small, and as you can see, it neatly tucks out of the way. So now it's time to wrap the paper pieces which make up the hexagon flower on the top of the lid. Now just a quick note about this, only the centre hexagon, shape L, is a even hexagon. The petals that go around the edge, they have been enlarged across the top edge ever so slightly because the lid has to be bigger than the hexagon box. I've done a little graphic to illustrate this. Cut to graphic.
If you scale the lid evenly, as you can see here, the inside edges don't move as much as the outside edges, so the lid isn't in proportion to the box. Instead, you need to alter the outside edges of the lid evenly, keeping the inside lines and the central hexagon the same. This means the petals of the hexagon flower are no longer hexagon.
So to make sure that our shape Ks are attached correctly, if you look at your guide on the last page of the pattern, you can use, because they're exactly the same size, you can use it to line it up, and you can see on the pattern it says this side attaches to centre. So when you're cutting your fabric and when you're attaching it, you just need to check that they are pointing the right way so that you get a nice regular shape when they're all attached. So I naturally thread base when I'm doing my normal English paper piecing. Obviously I've been gluing for the box, it just makes it a bit sturdier. But for the lid, as we're going to be removing the papers, I'm going to go back to my old favourite method of thread basting. If you do use glue basting, make sure you're using a glue that you can easily remove the papers, because for this step we're taking all the papers out.
So I've attached the petals around the central hexagon, and now I've got to go back and attach them to each other to finish the top. So I'm going to join the jewels for the inside of the lid. So now I've finished sewing all my jewels together to make the underside of the lid. I'm going to use this shape to cut my wadding and my scrap fabric.
So I now have all my elements for the top of the lid. I've got the underside. I then have some scrap fabric. I've cut an additional little sort of square fabric to have in the middle, so it's just a little bit more puffy in the middle. I've got my batting or wadding, and then I've got the top. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these layers, going to pop out my paper pieces all the way around. Now you can pop up and give that a little iron if it needs to be. I think mine is okay, so I'm not too worried about that. I did iron my scrap fabric though, that was a bit creased. So there we go, all papers removed. Okay, so we're going to sandwich them up. And then my top, and I'm going to give them a pin and go and put a little bit of quilting in it just to make it a little more interesting. So I finished doing the quilting on the lid, and I've trimmed the wadding and excess fabric all the way around to make it nice and neat. Now I'm going to take the underside of my lid, which will sit inside the lid like this, and I'm going to glue it over the top.
Okay, when you finish gluing it, put something heavy on it and just leave it for a little bit whilst the glue sets. Okay, so now is a tricky part. We have to attach all three of the layers of the lid onto our loop of card which we've already made. So if you line up our shape G with the flat edge of the jewel and then start to sew. Make sure you tuck in any wadding or scrap fabric as you go round, and the cardboard inner lining should fit inside the loop. You'll see these stitches, so make sure you have matching thread and practice your neatest stitching. When you've attached the first side to the loop, go to the one opposite and attach that, and then move around attaching the opposite ones, and it will become much easier to work with as you progress. It can definitely be tricky to get the right angle. You need to catch the top part of your Hexie flower, catch the fabric on the inside of your jewel lid, and then go through the fabric on the edge. So it is a bit tricky, and you do have to get the right angle with your needle, but you get used to it and it becomes more comfortable as you work through. I find it quite useful to push up the cardboard when you want to get the needle through the fabric, and then push it back down again when you want to get the needle through the fabric in the side pieces. So it's a bit of a seesaw, pushing up and pushing down to help the needle get access to the fabric that you're aiming for. It works quite well, I thought.
Oh, got there in the end, didn't we? It's tricky. It's tricky when you start off with that one. It only gets easier from here on in, you'll be glad to know. So next we're going to pop these corners in. A couple of mine popped in when I was sewing it. Oh, pop. And now we do the same around the inside corners. Ta-da! We've got a lid. Nearly there. Just the lining of the lid to go. Now, it's important to check the fit on your box before you go ahead and prepare the lining pieces. So let's pop it on. Okay, now mine feels quite snug. I don't feel like it needs too much more adding to it. So I'm going to cut out my lid lining in paper. But if, depending on the card you've used, the fabric you've used, if you feel like it's a bit loose, you want it a bit tighter, then cut out and wrap card. But I definitely think that paper will be perfect for my box. Nearly there. Last push.
Now I'm joining my shape J's together down their longest side. These would be the lining on the inside corner.
Now I'm going to take the lid of my box, take it off, just trying to gauge, it's quite loose, so I think I can attach the papers and then attach the wrapped shapes and then keep the papers in to glue down. But before I make a final decision, I'm going to attach some of the actual pieces on. So like we did before with the main body of the box, going to attach these middle sections across the top.
So now it's time to sew the two inner corner lining pieces. Before you start to sew along the top, make sure that the seam in between the two panels lines up with the inner corner. Worth putting a clip on and then sewing along the top. Bear in mind that the fabric needs to work when it's flipped over, so make sure it's the right way up.
Okay, all those have been attached, so we're just going to check again the sizing, because the decision now is, do we leave the papers in or do we take the papers out? Now obviously if it's a bit tight, we'll take the papers out, otherwise we'll leave them in. Now I just want to check that none of these are being pushed in because it's too tight, and they're not. So I think we're okay to leave the papers in. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by gluing the two flap pieces down. So we'll do all of those first, wait for those to dry and then come back, do the middle ones, and then it's job done. So I'm just putting these all back up, and then we'll
So when all the double side pieces have been stuck down and dried, then fold down the middle pieces. This just means that the middle pieces just cover up the edge of the inner pieces.
So this has been drying for a little while, so I take these clips and scrap card away, and hopefully the lid will fit, and we are done. And there we go. Ta-da! Can't wait to store my hexagon flowers in it, and actually it's fantastic when you are working on them because you can use the lid as a little tray to hold all your needles and cotton and scissors and stuff, so it's really, really handy. Wow, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope everything was clear. Please take a look at my Etsy shop as well. There's loads of other patterns, including more boxes. Give me a shout if there's anything else you want me to make a tutorial on. Also check out and follow me on Facebook, Patchwork Picnic. I have a new website which links you to all the items for sale on Etsy. And also I've got a Facebook group, Small Perfectly Formed EPP Sewing Circle. You have to answer a few questions and then you can share your progress, ask any questions, and we'll all help you out with your English paper piecing. Give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and leave any feedback in the comments. Enjoy making your box.